Alright guys, my name is Adam VanOrd and you're watching Live at 9:45. If you haven't checked out this show before, this is a place where you can come and see live interviews with some of the more up-to-date people in the hobby. Could be someone just doing something really cool, could be a bigger name person in our sector. It all depends on what I find cool and who says yes to be on the show. So, tonight I'm interviewing Rich Trujillo. Hopefully I got that right. He'll tell me if I did or not when he comes on. I saw him in here already. If you don't know who Rich is, Rich has been working for Horizon Hobbies for 20 plus years as a product developer. I hope I got that right. Again, he'll correct me if I'm wrong. And working on some of the biggest things that have been out in the last little bit here. So I can't wait to talk to him, hear what he has to say. Guys, this is going to be a good interview, and I know I say that about like every one of them. I truly believe that about every one of them, but this one is stellar. I got a chance to talk to him earlier in the week, and it was amazing. So a couple of housekeeping issues first. Please keep it PG in the comments. I would totally appreciate that. I do watch and read them, so if you throw out some questions here and there, I will try to get to them to the best of my abilities and fit them in my list if at all possible. Additionally, check out all of my social media profile stuff. So check out my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube channel, all of that stuff. I'm amazing. Thank you, Corey. I totally appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Additionally, check out the stuff that's coming up. So next week I'm taking a break. I'm headed out to King of Gurus, and if you're like me, you're either taking a break to do this from working on your stuff for KOG or for Axial Fest. So thank you for taking those few minutes to tune me on in the background and go from there. Next week's a break. The week after that is Desmond Mooney on the 26th. And then I have two more people lined up. We haven't locked down a date yet, but also great interviews, and we'll go from there. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Rich in, and we'll find out if I pronounced his name right and if I got his job title right. So we'll go from there. So Rich is coming on, and I'm going to get my questions lined up here, and we'll be good to go.
Hey, there I am.
Hey, how's it going? Man, I always miss the volume on my speaker. All right.
What's happening? You actually nailed my name. You got it right, Trujillo.
Yes. I got it wrong on every other intro that I did, that's for sure. So,
yeah, now you nailed it. And you got it right, too. I'm a product developer.
Oh, perfect. See? I got them both right, and I was getting them so wrong before, so I'm happy with that. So let's start this thing off with, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in relation to the hobby and so on and so forth.
All right. Well, my name is Richard Trujillo. I'm a product developer, I get to say senior product developer at Horizon Hobby. So I kind of earned that after all the years of working on products and being there for a long time. I started out at Losi when it was privately owned in 1994. Okay. Was when I started there. Started out in the shipping department. Basically, asked Gil Losi Jr. for a job, and he hooked me up. And I worked in the shipping department, receiving, kind of dabbled around in everything from literally doing quality control, worked a little in the machine shop. Not like I was machining parts. I was actually like old sliders. I was actually cutting them with an X-Acto knife on a lathe. So knick-knack things like that, you know, and that's what it was like when the Losis owned it way back in the day. And I progressively just kept doing different things at the company and became the team manager. And I did that for about 10 years. And then, yeah, Jeff, it means I'm senior. It means I'm old. Sorry, I can see the comments there.
Oh, yeah.
And then I did the team management for about 10 years, got involved in graphics, the instruction manuals, the website, dabbled in that stuff. And then I got an opportunity to be a product developer. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's awesome. So the next thing that I'm going to do is kind of have you, well, actually that's further on, but so tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the hobby here in just a second. But first, for those of you who have come in, I want to address that I'm trying to make a little bit of a change based on a suggestion that that someone that had given me along the way here. And so I'm trying to pay attention to your comments and see if I can squeak them in as questions here and there. So if you guys do have questions for Rich, post them up and we'll see if I can get them in. If not, we'll address them later. But I will try and squeak them in here and there. So feel free to do that. If you see me like writing, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep up. So, but first, tell us about how long have you been in the hobby? Was it just for work, or were you doing the
No,
hobby before that?
you know, I started out in 1982, and I started with a Shinsei Mountain Man. It was an actual Chevy Blazer that ran on like 8 C-size batteries, and it wasn't a true hobbyist kit, but I actually built a little course. Bless you. Or was that a cough?
Oh, it's a cough. I apologize.
It's all good.
I've been trying to kick the cough, and I can't do it. So I apologize to you and everybody out there watching this, but right. I will be coughing. My bad.
No problem. But started out with that and actually built a little scale course, believe it or not. I didn't know what I was doing back then. I just had this little Blazer, has 4-wheel drive, and I built a little course back there. And then I went to a toy hobby shop, and I saw the Hilux, the Tamiya Hilux for the first time. And I couldn't afford that, obviously, but I saw the Subaru Brat. So 1982, bought the Subaru Brat, saved my money, and that's where it started. And ever since then, I was so addicted to it that I actually dabbled in working part-time at a local hobby shop. I used to get my dad to drive me down there. Okay. And then I actually got involved in racing. And then I ended up managing a racetrack. So it just kind of kept going from starting it out as a hobby to turning into a career as far as managing a shop to working at a factory, and that's where I'm at.
All right. So, like, did you have a person who you would say got you into the hobby, or like an event or a changing moment that kind of sparked it?
You know, I can't really pinpoint that, but you know, my dad was a car guy. He really was into cars. Always fixed up cars. Nothing super crazy like hot rods or a crazy drag car, but just always liked to fix up cars and make them look nice. And so I became a car guy, and I just saw that RC card, and you know what? Quite frankly, I was dying to get my license. Okay. And the closest thing I could get to driving a car was driving an RC car, and I would literally just sit in front of my house and just drive around like you know, I was driving a real car. And so I think that's what really drew me to it, and then the fact that I could actually build my own car as well. That Subaru Brat, the first time I built it, took me 3 days to build that Tamiya Subaru Brat the first time. But I thought it was the coolest thing with the, you know, 1/2 inch of suspension travel and all that good stuff. I was amazed at it. So yeah, awesome. that's what probably triggered it, is my passion for cars and wanting to drive.
Right, and then you kind of like transitioned into working in it, and that's a great story. What was your first hobby grade RC? We already talked about it.
Yeah, I did talk about it, but it was the Tamiya. It was a Tamiya Subaru Brat. That was the first one. That's what got me addicted to it. And my buddy had the Tamiya Audi Quattro based off the old Willys chassis. So he and I actually had a buddy that would do it. So we'd go out and run our cars and that type of stuff. And little by little, it became the Cox Scorpion, the Tamiya Blackfoot, you know, and just kept kind of taxing it on there. And then I was doing whatever I could to make money to buy RC cars, you know. So that's kind of where it started. But yeah, it was a Tamiya Subaru Brat. And actually, about 15 years ago, a buddy of mine gave me an original Tamiya Subaru Brat, and I actually rebuilt it, painted it up, and made it look all original. So I have what I consider my first RC car. So I still got that. I don't need it. It just sits in the garage, but it's kind of nice to have it.
Yeah. So there were actually like several questions in there, in the comments. And for those of you who will watch this later on YouTube, you can't see the comments, but, a lot of people asked about a collection. How many RCs do you kind of have going on in your collection?
you know, I'm going to answer Haas. I was 12 in 1982. So I see that little comment there. Sorry. I'm a little distracted by it, but, I don't have very many cars, to be honest. I used to be a big Tamiya collector for quite a long time, from Subaru, Bruisers, Hilux, Rough Riders, Super Champs. I was really into it pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But I pretty much got rid of the entire collection because I had no place to put it. And two, I started building more real cars. And so I could use some of those funds towards my real cars. I've built a lot of cars in the past.
Yeah.
But what I did do is I try to keep at least one of every project I've ever worked on. So I have the first vehicle of any project I worked on. So I think I'm up to like 22 cars.
Okay.
I've got them stored up in various places, but I've always tried to at least keep one of each one.
Yeah. You know, I wouldn't blame you at all. I mean, when we get into a little bit about how that process works and all the stuff you do, I was lucky enough to talk to you earlier in the week, so I know a little bit about it. Man, it's involved. So I can understand how you'd be in there with each one like that. So
yeah.
If you weren't in the RC stuff as a hobby, or maybe even a career, let's change my question. If you weren't in this as a career, what career or like direction do you think you might have gone?
Honestly, I would have been law enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a little weird to think, but yeah, that's really what I wanted to do, was be in law enforcement. My cousin and my uncle were, well, my cousin's still a sheriff's deputy. He's actually a detective, and my uncle retired. He was a detective as well, and I just wanted to do it so bad, but my mom talked me out of it because I had kids when I was pretty young, and she's like, "You can't chance it. You might get hurt or killed or blah blah blah." And so I listened to that, and I stuck to RC, which actually turned out to be pretty good. Turned into a career, so I can't complain. But that's what I would have done. Probably law enforcement.
All right, that's an interesting answer. I love it. So the next two questions I ask everybody, because I like to see their response to it, and I like to see what goes on inside of the thinking process. And I think that you might bring an interesting perspective to this because you design and help develop and have things like see the projects from the beginning to the end. Are you a fan of big tires or small tires?
I'm a small tire guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the challenge of running. When I say small, like 4.19, I'm not running anything smaller than that. You know, I see like the class 0 guys, and I don't get that small. But I like the challenge of going out there and having to pick the right line with the other guys running bigger tires. I like that challenge. That's my favorite thing. I kind of like the way they look a little bit better too. You know, for my son, he likes the bigger tires because he's not as passionate as I am about it. But he likes to, if I'm going to go run, he wants to make it a little easier to get around. So I'll put bigger tires on for him. But on my truck, I like to run 4.19. So I'm a small tire guy. I just like that underdog challenge of, you know, doing lines, and people are just like, how did you do that? That's what I like to do.
Yeah, I feel that one completely. So brushed or brushless, man?
You know, I've just started dabbling in brushless, but I really like brushed. Maybe it's because I've had my old Twister Pocket Rocket days, you know, and running those brushed motors. But that's what I've been doing is been running brushed. Now I did pick up a new Tekin system to run, and I'm kind of playing around with some brushless stuff. So I'm trying to see what that feels like as well. But for the most part, I've still been running brushed.
Okay. All right. So in case people missed the event info stuff, or they've come in a little bit later here, you've worked for Horizon for quite some time, and what exactly do you do? So we gave you the title, we stated that, but what is that like?
Yeah, so I'm a senior product developer, and I got the title just because I'd been there a long time, and you know, I think I was in there. So for people who don't know, I'm on my second stint, and I'll give a little bit of background on that as well, you know, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But I was there for 21 years. And as everybody knows, the hobby kind of slowed down, and Horizon decided to tighten some things up. And unfortunately, I was one of those to be laid off.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a work issue. It was just more so some tough decisions had to be made. And unfortunately, I was one of them to be let go. After that, I was fortunate enough to be pretty friendly with Tom at RC 4-Wheel Drive. And he offered me a position, snapped me right up. So I was with them for a year, really enjoyed my experience with them, but I kept in touch with a lot of the guys at Horizon, and an opportunity came up for me to go back and work with them. You know, when you first get laid off, yeah, you're bitter, you're pissed. You know, I've been there for a long time, and that sucks and this and that. But at the same time, too, I knew how good the company was as far as being a strong company and good at making decisions.
Right.
So it sucks I was on the other end of that decision, but at the same time too, they brought me back. Now, if anybody's wondering and speculating maybe why would leave RC Four-Wheel Drive and come back, had nothing to do with RC Four-Wheel Drive at all. They were incredible to me. I mean, Tom went above and beyond. The team that I worked with there was awesome. It just came down to I had to work from home, and I struggle working from home. Some people can do it. I just couldn't. I couldn't turn it off, and I liked working in a group environment. Now, Tom did offer me a position to be, help me move up to, or to get me up to Visalia to work with the team there.
Right.
But my parents are here, and then my sister happened to move out of state, so everything kind of didn't work, and it was just a thing of, you know what, I need to stay in SoCal. And then the opportunity came up with Horizon and to go back and work with my old guys. So it was a tough call having to let Tom know that I was going to leave, but I've stayed on a what I feel is a good relationship with the guys there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the stuff that's coming out, but I've never told anybody, because that's the way I am. We worked hard together. And then I came back from my second stint with Horizon. In fact, I think today or later this week will be my 1-year anniversary of being back with Horizon. So
Okay.
there's a little bit of background on as far as my little bit of work history there. So now with being a senior product developer, what I do is I get to work with our entire team and staff, from our marketing team to our the development team, our engineers, and we have a meeting to discuss, hey, what new products should come out on the market? What's it trending? Where should we go? What should we do? A decision is made, and at that point is when we decide, hey, Richard's going to do this project. So what my job is I take this project, this idea that we have, I'll either work with one of the graphic guys, or I'll kind of try and mock something up in Photoshop. No, excuse me. And then we go through a process of where I have to propose the project and make sure that it's actually a viable product for the rest of the team, from our sales staff to everybody involved, purchasing, everybody gets involved. And what we'll do is, well, actually, once we get this, let's say this, an Ascender approved, then I get to work with our designers and work with giving them the ideas of things we want. They develop it, they design it, and then I handle the quotation process with the vendor, communicate back and forth, negotiate pricing, tooling, all that type of stuff. And then after that, we'll get the product, start getting samples of the product, and I'll also have to do the testing as well. So I go from everything from maybe coming up with the idea, getting it approved, working with a designer, working with the factory, get the samples, do the testing, and then there's all the other steps too, where you deal with the instruction manual team, you deal with the purchasing team, the sales team, and so I handle that entire project from start to finish. And then not only that, you got to maintain it as well. So let's say for some reason an Ascender starts blowing CV shafts after 3 years, and it's like, whoa, what's going on? I might get something from product support telling me, hey, we're having problems with the axles. Well, even though I'm done with, let's say, that original project, I still have to go back to the factory, get it figured out. Let's see what the deal is. Let's make sure it's right, and go from there. So you never stop maintaining these projects. I mean, it goes on for as long as they're around. You maintain the projects. So you're working on these, and then you can also be supporting the old projects as well. Hopefully that kind of answers what I do, but you can ask any questions you want. I'll be a little more specific, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it does. But when you talk, so you do a lot there, and I'm curious what the timeline is. So beginning a project to like final production, it hits the shelves. What kind of timeline are you talking about?
It just depends really on what it is. It's at least, now I've whipped out some projects in like 6 months, but those were pretty easy projects. I'll give you an example. The Viterra C10 that we just recently re-released. We had our lowrider truck, but we decided, you know what, let's change it up a little bit. Let's add some LED lights, because that'll be kind of cool. It'll kind of spice it up. So that one was an easy one, because all I had to do was have them modify the mold, put some LED lights. We did a new box, boom, boom, boom. It was done in like 6 months, 7 months. A ground up project can take anywhere from 18 months to 24 months. And that means like literally from the day that I get the okay to start moving through the process to maybe the day that it hits the shelves.
Yeah.
And again, it just depends too. If you're doing something brand new, like let's say the Twin Hammers was back in the day, that was probably like 18 months, 24 months. If you're dealing with a monster truck or a fifth scale vehicle or something like that, it could take longer. It just depends on how complicated it is. Is it totally new? You know, that type of stuff. It varies. So it can be anywhere from 6 months. We're punched to make that happen, and that's pretty rare. But for the most part, it's probably 12 months to 24 months.
Okay. Interesting. So where do the new ideas for these products come from? So like you said, okay, for example, the Twin Hammers, which I actually have sitting right behind me because I've been beating the snot out of mine. But you said that that one was brand new. Like where do the ideas for I don't know, like it's a hard question to ask because like that one you could give an example for that one, but like I guess overall.
Yeah, I guess I could even actually use the Twin Hammers as an example. Jake Wright. Okay. I don't know. I know a lot of people in the crawling area, and especially on RC Crawler, they know him. Jake Wright, he actually handmade his own truck, and he brought it in. He was actually one of our team drivers at the time when we were doing the comp crawler and stuff. And he brought this rig in that he, you know, welded up a tube frame and used I think a Traxxas front end with the cantilever type stuff and solid axle rear end from I think a SCX 10. I can't remember now, but I saw it and I was like, holy cow, that thing is cool. We need to make that. So that's where the idea for that came from, was actually just one of the builders building this cool car. Other times, you know, all our guys are passionate at work. We're all RC guys, everybody. You don't really have a product developer that's not into RC.
Right.
And so I mean, now it's a little easier because you can be on Facebook, you can go on Instagram, you can check out the forums and see somebody build something kind of cool. That's where a lot of the ideas come from, as far as, you know, hey, they built something pretty cool. We could probably do something like that. I mean, I'll also come up with stuff, and, you know, it's funny because I told you in our earlier conversation this week, as we were preparing for this, just to kind of get some, you know, learn how the system works.
Right.
We've had random things like, and you know, I thought they were crazy, but one of them was, we used to have these random sessions with our entire development team, and one said, let's do an RC ball. And I was like, RC ball, you're out of your mind. But you know what? We had to throw that type of stuff out there. So I guess they've actually done it, you know, and now we have the Star Wars ball thing that moves around. But that's kind of like where these ideas come from, is just we throw stuff at the wall, see what might stick, and then start to get the follow-up with, you know, like I said, marketing and everybody else. We ask our team drivers, or, you know, we have friends that are in the industry. We know we don't have a Viterra team, but for the most part, we have a couple guys that have been loyalists, and we ask them, hey, what ideas you got? You got any suggestions, and that type of stuff. So that's kind of where it comes from, you know, just inspiration from what's out there.
I have to refer to the two questions that just popped up because they're kind of near and dear to my heart at the moment. The one says that maybe Horizon should make a tri-van, and then the other one says any dancing rider types coming. So anything with 3 wheels in the future, I like 3 wheels. So
you know, at that right now, I could say no. Hadn't thought about it, to be honest. But I did see yours, and that thing is pretty cool. And the dancing rider, what is it called? Yeah, that dancing rider type. That thing is pretty cool. I'm going to give that to Harley for really hyping that up. You know, I've seen him doing his builds and stuff like that. But I don't see any plans in the near future for something like that. We've got a ton of stuff on our plates, but you never know. I mean, I'll throw that on the list and see if it sticks.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked about the list. And so we've talked a little bit about the fact that like you'd sit down and brainstorm, throw out ideas, have a session. For every idea that makes it into production, how many don't make it? And so before you answer that question, I'm going to pose a question to all the people out there watching right now. And even people on YouTube, you can throw up comments afterwards or whatever. Where do your ideas come from when you do your builds? Because you're not a business, you're not a corporation, but you guys are building things. So where do they come from? Where's your inspiration? So go ahead, Rich. For everyone that makes it, what ones don't? How many?
Man, you know, that's a tough one, because it's always revolving, because there's so many steps into making a product. we could literally have 12 vehicles that we want to plan to do for the next 2 years. Like, let's just say that. And probably by the end, maybe 4 make it.
Okay.
So a lot of times there's a big chopping block, and some things might not make sense. We might actually get pretty far in the development, and then we start looking at it like, okay, well, that's going to be very difficult to tool. You know, we also have to, you know, let's face it, we're here to make money. We need to be a profitable company. And so there's margins to be made. We need the dealers to make money. And we also need to make a product that actually is priced right so that the consumers want to buy it. Right. So sometimes we'll have a project that we'll literally get it down to where it's completely designed and been quoted. And then we'll go back and like, you know what, this doesn't make sense. We can't make it for that price. And we don't think it's going to fit the market at that price. So it gets pulled off the line and set aside. Or, you know, pulled out of our lineup of what we were planning to do. But then example, like when I told you we were talking about that RC ball, I think we came up with like 60 ideas for products. And out of that meeting, I think about 12 made it out that actually made it to production. And that one particular one, the 5T, was one of the items that came out. So we had the 5T, we had this RC ball. I think we had talked about an RC tank at one time, maybe a construction truck. So none of those things made it, but the 5T did. So that's what was kind of cool with the team that we get to work with, is that everybody has a passion. I'm the scale guy. Raphael's the boat guy. Anthony used to be the fifth scale guy. Chris Higa's the fifth scale guy now. So everybody kind of has their little you know, things that they're kind of into. And that's what's pretty cool too, is that with our group as well, we have like our race guys, like Frank Root, Ryan Dunford, they're our race guys. You know, Mikey Mellon, he's our designer for the race stuff on electric. I know I'm throwing all these names out there. These guys, nobody really maybe knows some of them. They don't know some. Rob does our ECX vehicles. But everybody kind of has a passion. And even though maybe he's into race, maybe he's in a fifth scale, a lot of the ideas come back and they'll look at my scaler and be like, why don't you, how about doing this? Oh, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Or, hey, on the scale side, you know, when we did this, this does this. Well, that's something we could put on an ECX vehicle or vice versa. So it's kind of cool that all the guys get together and we actually work on our designs and ideas. So, you know, you have this whole big team of guys that are passionate about it, and that's how you end up picking what's hot, what's not. Because we could come up with something like I like, and then I'll show it to the other guys and like, I don't get it. You know, so that's kind of where some of the ideas get thrown away.
Right. Okay. What is your favorite project that you've worked on so far?
I'm gonna say the Comp Crawler. That was probably my favorite. It was the hardest project. It was the most grueling project to support because we had a lot of issues at the beginning.
Right.
But at that time, you know, comp crawling was just starting to blow up, and it was just so much fun building this pretty innovative vehicle at the time. So that's probably my favorite. It's probably going to be the Comp Crawler. But you know what? The Ascender, the Twin Hammers, the 5T, the Micro Crawlers. There's so many of them. I mean, like I said, I've been very lucky. I love doing what I'm doing. So getting to build the cars and trucks and things and putting my touch on it, my styling, what I think looks good, maybe what not, that's hard. But I'd probably say the Comp Crawler. That was a pretty fun vehicle.
Awesome. So what is your design process? And obviously you don't have to give away like trade secrets, nothing that like can't be out there, but like what are the basics of how you go through your process?
Well, you know, a lot of times, and I don't care what anybody says, we all take a look at what everybody makes. So, you know, we'll pick up, like when we did the Ascender, we tested the Axial SCX10. We had a Trail Finder, I think is what I had at the time. A couple other vehicles, you know, we go out there and test them and look at them. And then we take a look at what the features are and maybe what everybody's doing. So like when it came to the Ascender, as an example, we saw that everybody wanted low profile axles. We saw that people were adjusting and making their own wheelbases, cutting the wheel, the frames down, making these customized options.
Right.
We saw that people wanted a, 2-speed transmission or things like that. So you kind of take all that stuff, and then again, I have a passion for scaling, so it was kind of easy, and crawling. So I would just kind of watch the board, see what everybody's doing, get some inspiration from that, and then work with the designer and start hammering it out. Like, what are we going to do? An example would be the Comp Crawler. When that one came out, most people were using SEX 10s and converting them to make rock crawlers, and they were making digs. They were pretty unreliable digs at the time, depending on what you had.
Yeah.
Some were doing that little ring around the shaft, and then the ring would break, and then you wouldn't have it. Well, when I was talking to our designer, who at the time was designed Indy cars, had nothing to do with crawling, but
Right.
he had done some research, and he thought, hey, what about worm gears? We can make a super low profile axle housing. We could build a front and rear dig because the worm gear is going to stop, and it's just going to allow us a lot more room to have bigger, more clearance and all that stuff. And that's where that idea came from. So, that's part of the process of just kind of looking around, seeing what's out there, and then trying to improve it. I mean, that's the one big thing is our guys, we really work hard at trying to improve items, be innovative. We really work hard at quality. And I know you're going to hear this from every other factory as well, but I'll tell you what, our guys really work hard at it. They really do. I mean, I feel bad for our factories because we're a nightmare. Our expectations are so high. So that's one of the things that we really focus on. So that's part of the process, is just looking and trying to get, really learning about it as much as possible. You miss things. I'll give you an example, and I think we had it on our list, was on the Ascender, the torque twist. When we were designing this vehicle, we wanted to have as much ground clearance as possible, make a nice, super small axle housing. And at the same time too, well, financially, I need to try and keep costs down, but hey, we could use the 2-speed transmission from the twin hammers. So, I'm no engineer in any way whatsoever. I've been around long enough that I can see maybe this might not fit. We need to adjust this angle here, that type of stuff. But can I calculate ratios and the torque and this and that? No, I don't know any of that stuff. So at the time, unfortunately, I didn't recognize that. So when we designed the vehicle, we went as low profile axle as possible, went to the twin hammers transmission. Well, that's where all your gear reduction is. I didn't know that you can't have a super tall gear ratio in your axle because it's going to want a torque twist. Add on top of that, we put this giant K5 body on it, and now it looks exaggerated like crazy. So does that torque twist? Yes. Have we learned to get around it? I think I have. I've actually worked on the setup, and it's on my Facebook thing, and we can promote that later or whatever. But there's ways to get around the torque twist. You mechanically, you can't get past it. You're gonna have it. It's just mechanically it's there because of the ratios. But you can actually get by pretty well. And I think some of the guys, I have some local guys that we run with. I know those guys, they can tell you that I've got my Ascender in pretty well. So you can get around that. But that's just some of the things that you learn, and well, I won't make that mistake again, But again, you can get around it. It's just a matter of sometimes you're very lucky in finding things out. Sometimes you're not. And it's a little bit late when you do and you don't realize it. It didn't seem like it was that exaggerated. But like I said, once we got that big K5 body on it, that's when everybody noticed, oh, wow, you torque twist. It's like, yeah, it does. But it's not that bad. We've done pretty well with it. So, it's all right. And I see Tim asking about sharing the setup. If you go to, and I'll just pimp it now, the Viterra, the Worldwide Viterra Group, and there's another Viterra Center owners. I posted a link in there. It's mainly a suspension setup, which with the shocks, and it's a pretty simple thing to do, and it really makes a big difference. So check it out if you guys want to see it, or hit me up on Facebook, send me a message, and I'll send you the link so you can know how to work on that. So
yeah. All right, that's awesome. So we bumped through a bunch of questions, so I'm gonna kind of cycle and see what I got going on here.
Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
No, on our block was to talk about the worm gears versus doing like an MOA style option, because I think really the the comp crawler was out there to kind of compete with the MOA style stuff, not only just like the guys who were using digs and the axial stuff. So what, like, you already
Why?
explained why you would go worm gears,
Yeah.
though, right? So
Well,
we're
I know where you're going with this. So what it came down to is we actually had the opportunity to be the exclusive distributor for En Route Berg. We were given the MOA actually probably about 4 months before we started the Comp Crawler project. And at the time, nobody was really doing the MOAs that much. Yeah, you see the Berg, it was like $400, $500, something like that. And being kind of a purist, I wanted my crawler to have drive shafts, because to me that's what four-wheeling was. You had a
Right.
front and rear drive shaft. And we did test the MOA, and back then that's when you had the Claude stall. You know, it was kind of like really funky, and I'm looking at this thing like, I don't know what to do with this thing. You know, I don't think this is a good idea. In hindsight, that's the direction I ended up going, but that's what happens. You know, the technology starts to grow, people start to get crazy with these things. And so the decision was made, let's go with the Comp Crawler. And let's do drive shafts and worm gears and that type of stuff. And for that little while, you know, we had a pretty good rig. Now, we did have worm gear issues. And that's a pretty funny story that killed me, all right? And I can give a little bit of background on that for some of the old schoolers, but it's a pretty simple reason as to what happened. So basically, the worm gear has a certain angle on the gears when they're cut.
Okay.
I got the samples, the production samples, put them down on the ground. They ran perfect. Everything's great, no problem. Out the door they go, and all of a sudden people are saying, hey, my gears are getting super hot. There's all kinds of problems. And I was like, what's going on? Well, it turned out that the worm gears were cut backwards. So what happened is, after doing a long investigation, and what a nightmare that was for me. Luckily, the guys at RC Crawler were very supportive. I work a lot of overtime on my own, packaging up replacement parts for everybody. But the bottom line is, the machine shop that was cutting the gears had a new guy. He went in there, set up the gears, cut the gears, got halfway through and said, oops, I put them in backwards. So he just flipped the template around, the jig, and just started cutting gears and just tossed the rest of the gears in there. So once they went to heat treat, anodizing, or hard anodizing, or what do you call it, black oxiding, the angle was so slight, you really couldn't see it. Nobody caught it. And then just my luck, the first 4 samples I get to test were all perfect, no problem. So literally, it was some guy who just doesn't know. He's sitting in front of a machine cutting gears, flipped the tool, put it in the wrong way, and there you go. So that was a nightmare for me. But after that, though, still the Comp Crawler was pretty fun, and that's why we chose drive shafts, because, like I said, I felt like a purist. I couldn't stand MOAs. I just didn't think that they were really what four-wheeling was about. Now, they did grow out and be the big thing. Axial had theirs. You know, and it got pretty complicated. I kind of think it was the demise of comp crawling, to be honest. It got so difficult and expensive with the amount of speed controllers and everything you needed to do to make them work. But, you know, that's the path that went down. But like I said, touring cars were the same way too. They started out with Tamiya TA01s, and they were basic chassis with a shaft drive, and you'd blow out the drive shafts and stuff. Well, now look at what they are now. They're these blobs going around on carpet that do 60 miles an hour. So, you know, everything progresses.
Yeah. So I think that's probably, it's funny that you said that the money aspect is what you think killed comp crawling a little bit. And I think I'm seeing a resurgence. Like, honestly, I think it lives pretty strong right now, but that's why I don't have one. Like, there's no one in my area. I would love nothing more than to go out and run crazy lines that you just can't do. But I can't stomach buying like 2 speed controls and 2 motors and all the other stuff just to go play and have fun, because there's no one to compete with. So and now I'm gonna get the other guys from PA are gonna flip. Here come the comments saying, "Come out and run with us," but you guys are a long ways away still. So, so all right. So let's talk about what do you think is one thing that a manufacturer should not leave off of a scale trail truck, like something like that, man?
For me,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of basic. It's going to be injection molded grill. At
Okay.
least that. I think to make it scale, it's got to have the three-dimensional, chrome grill or light bucket or whatever that's on it. To me, that's what you cannot leave off of a scaler. Now, I get it. There's some that you got to do Lexan bodies with stickers. And again, that comes down to price point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of battles that we have within the company when it comes down to, okay, we've got to do this so we can get that. We have margins we have to make. The dealers have margins they got to make. We got to make it so that the guy, like I told you earlier, so people want to buy it. So sometimes you give and take on things. Personally, for me, I think it's that they should all have at least the injection molded grill.
All right. And I see a lot of trucks going that way. Lots and lots of them actually. And so it's an interesting thing that you said that's the thing that you key on that you think is really important. So yeah. For me, like if I was building a truck, it has to have an interior. You never see a truck drive around without an inside. I just don't get it. But
I agree too that it's got to have an interior. But man, I suck at building interiors. So unless I can happen to figure out a way to get it in the kit, I'm pretty bad about doing it. So
well, there's so many options out there now. Like there's just so many, and I love like an axial bomber interior or Yeti interior. Or just slap something in there, make it look like it's racing, but like just anything in there at all makes it look better. Anything at all.
It really does. And yeah, I'm such a hack on I have this Ascender. It's an F100 that I call the Hulk. I painted it green and it's got a pretty nice frame on it and all kinds of stuff. But what I did is I took a Rockray interior and I literally just butchered. If anybody looked closely at it, they'd go, "You're a hack." But I literally just cut it up with scissors and use shipping tape to stick it on the inside and put a Hulk figurehead on top of it. And that's about as good as my interiors get. Unless like someone like Archie Drive makes their injection molded interior, then I throw that in the one of the Hilux bodies or something like that. But yeah, that's about as far as I take it. I suck at that stuff. So hey,
that's all it needs to be. It's just got to be there. That's right. What I. But that's just me. So, all right. Do you think in the that we will see a resurgence of kits or options of trucks coming as a roller without electronics in the future, or do you think that the industry is kind of headed in a way of doing mainly ready to runs?
That's a tough one. I like to build my own vehicles. I like building kits. But quite frankly, the market is just RTR. I mean, that's where it's at. I mean, it's instant gratification. People are really into that. I think that there's definitely room for kits. I think it's a matter of what you include with the kits nowadays. I think, in my opinion, now I'm not saying this is going to happen, but in my opinion, I think a kit that didn't have the wheels, the tires, a body, and it's just the basic chassis itself. I guess it could be a roller. Maybe it was pre-assembled as a roller. I don't know how many people want that, but I could kind of see something like that, only because our segment is so into customization that I could see people wanting to do that. But it's still kind of getting past that. I mean, we have the ability to take a look at what sales are because obviously we have our inventory.
Right.
And we can figure out, hey, what's hot, what's not. And if there's not a lot of support for the kits, it's a tough decision to get made by our company, our bosses, to say, yeah, go ahead and spend the money to make these things. Because although there are a small segment of people who want them, sometimes it doesn't justify the cost. So I think that you're still going to see RTRs being obviously the most dominant side of it. But I still think there is some room, and especially if people send emails or people post on our Instagram, hint, hey guys, how about a kit? That definitely makes a big difference if we can start to see that stuff. So help me out, guys. I'm a kit guy. I'd like to see more kits, but hey, at the same time, I want to keep my job. So if they want RTRs, I'm building RTRs.
Well, I think we want you to keep your job too. So, and it's funny that you say post up that you want to see more kits, or post up this, or hit us on Instagram or on Facebook, or send us messages or emails, because I feel like not a lot of people would take that step and kind of like show the company, hey, this is what we want. And so if people really do want those things, putting all of that out there, and it also speaks volumes to the fact that you're like in tune with that. So
Yeah, we
not
listen.
only, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you're listening, you're reading the emails, you're checking out the Facebook accounts, the Instagram accounts, and you're following what's going on. So
Yeah, for sure. It makes a big difference. I mean, you know, the only thing that, and I think we talked about this too, and I don't know where it's on your list of stuff, but the only thing that I want to clarify for a lot of people is bodies, the licensed
yeah,
bodies. Why don't you make a Suzuki Samurai? Why don't you make a Dodge Power Wagon? Why don't you make this and that body, and so on and so on? Well, it's not that we don't want to make these bodies. It's a matter of there's licensing fees involved, and there's minimum guarantees that these companies want. They have this product that they've invested a ton of money in making, whether it be Toyota, Nissan, Jeep, Chevy, whoever it is.
yep,
And you know, they need to recoup some of their costs on that, so they don't give us free licenses. You know, we got to pay. So
right,
the challenge is, all right, how do we pick a body? How do we know we're making the right one? You got a tooling expense. There's a lot of money involved in getting these tools done. You know, it's not like, oh, it's $5,000 and you can make a Lexan body. No, it's not that easy. There's a lot more work to the design work. There's a lot of processes in getting things approved by Ford, Chevy, GM. You have
right,
to give them a minimum percentage. There's that type of stuff. So it gets pretty expensive, and it kind of makes it hard to make all these bodies. So should you guys keep saying, hey, make this body? Absolutely. Because at some point we're going to say, hey, we need to make a body. Well, 50 guys have been asking for a Dodge Power Wagon on this one time that I happen to see it. Well, you know what? It's a small piece of the pie, but it gives us an idea of what people are looking for. So you can
right,
keep asking that, but quite frankly, don't expect your one email to Proline or to us or whoever and say, hey, I sent an email. I'm hoping they're going to make a Nissan hard body. It's probably not going to happen, but it doesn't hurt to ask. That's what I'll say. Just don't get bummed when Proline never listens or Viterra never listens or Axial never listens. It's not that, guys. We hear it. It's just there's an expense and there's contracts that have to be signed and minimum guarantees and so on and so on. So, you know, be patient with us. But by all means, tell us, what do you want? We want to hear it.
all right. So you just mentioned Axial, so I have to bring up the elephant in the room. You know that I can't talk to you. I cannot interview someone from Horizon and not talk about Axial, Viterra, what is coming, what is going to happen.
Right.
Do you think? So, what can you tell us, or what do you know about Horizon and them taking over the Axial brand?
Right.
Where do you stand in all of that?
Well, you know, there's so let me start off by saying that the first thing I'm going to say is Horizon didn't acquire Hobbyco and Arma and Axial to blow them out of the water and get rid of them. You know, that is the furthest thing from our minds. You know,
Yeah,
we're really excited about having Axial, and it's very strange for me because they were a direct competitor. You know, we developed the Ascender to go against the SCX10. I mean, that's bottom line. We wanted to kill it, and at least, you know, develop a cool vehicle that can compete right against it or have some features that people would have to buy option wise on an SCX10. So it's really unique and strange that now the guys like Matt and Jeff and Randall and Scotty G and John Schultz and all those guys at Axial, I work with them now, and they know what I'm doing. I know what they're doing. So on that end of it, I guess what I'll get at, because like I said, the elephant in the room, Viterra isn't going anywhere. Axial isn't going anywhere. Um, we've been very fortunate that Horizon, who, like I mentioned earlier, made some tough decisions, but put themselves in a great spot to be able to take advantage of a situation where, you know, Hobbyco was going out of business, you know, and we were able to buy up Arma and Axial and all the other brands and Hobbyco and Tower Hobbies. So
right.
you get that all combined in there, and again, they didn't invest this money to just get rid of it.
No.
You know, we want Axial Fest. We want to take advantage of this great brand, Axial. I mean, Axial had been stagnant for a while. I mean, everybody saw for a while that it was hard to get product, and that was just due to the financial issues with Hobbyco. It wasn't that Matt and the guys over at Axial didn't want to do anything. Trust me, I know they wanted to do stuff. They just weren't in a position to do it. So now that we've taken over, I guess you could say, and we've bought the brand, We've actually brought the guys in. They're still working at Axial. They have their own offices, but they're actually being integrated into our systems now. And that's going to take some time. You know, we have a different way of doing things, but the creativity and the ability to get these things done is still all there. In regards to Vatera, that again is not going anywhere. In fact, I'll hint here, we got a couple releases coming out this year. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but we do have some stuff coming along. And I think we can run them side by side, at least for a while. Who knows? Maybe it'll get to a point where people just aren't going to ask for Vatera anymore and they're asking for Axial. Well, then, as a business decision at that point, maybe it would go away, you know, but it just depends on how it goes. But right now, there's no plans to get rid of the brands as far as just, Axial or the Vateras are going out. Now, I will tell you something that's going to be interesting here, and people are going to say, wait a second, why'd you guys lower the price on the Ascenders? Not everybody knows it yet, but we did do a price reduction, a permanent price reduction on the Ascenders. Why? Well, there's a lot of competition out there. You know, the Ascender's been around for, what, about 4 years now, 5 years now? So we've, you know, we've been able to pay off tooling a long time ago, and there's a little bit of room to kind of make ourselves a little bit more aggressive on pricing. You know, you have a lot of competition out there now. So we reduced the price so that way we can be a lot more competitive in the market, give some options. I mean, you know, I'm not going to deny it. Vatera isn't the hugest brand when it comes to scalers and stuff like that. We really work hard to make some cool stuff. But I hopefully the price reduction will help draw some people in here. And I'm not trying to do this for promotion, blah, 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 that type of stuff. It really just, truthfully, it literally happened today. I saw that we reduced the price. I knew it was coming, but I saw that it was there today. So before anybody thinks they're dropping the price, they're going to get rid of them, blah, blah, blah. No, we're not getting rid of them. You know, the K5 Blazer was discontinued. That was a licensing agreement decision. Basically, it's been around the lineup for 4 or 5 years. We decided we're just not going to renew the contract with GM on that one. And so that was like, the K10's going to stick around. The Bronco's around. The F100's around. And like I said, we got some other stuff coming down the pipe. So it's not going anywhere.
Nice. All right. So, oh my gosh, that's the second pen I've dropped. I'm trying to write like all the stuff down. I'm running out, guys. Like I'm going to have to go down and get pens. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to go get pens. Apparently I can't hold on to anything tonight. Oh, well.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to switch things a little bit because I know you do spend some time on Facebook, and I know you spend some time combing, I think, the forums. We mentioned them the other night when you and I were talking. Mm-hmm. And so who are your influences in the scale segment of the hobby? And if you were to name someone who you think should be on the show, who would you pick?
Man, that's a tough one. You know, I'm not trying to be politically correct here either. Okay, yeah, grab your pen there.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be politically correct here. So,
no, you're good.
You know, honestly, when I go to Scale Builders Guild or I go to RC Crawler and check out the forums, I'm just blown away by all the builds that everybody does. Now, there is one guy that I will say that I remember, and I don't know if he's still building vehicles or not, but when we did the micro crawler, I think his user ID on Scale Builders Guild was 55 Chevy, and he was building the most amazing 24 scale scalers off the micro crawler. I wish I could have actually got one of his vehicles that he built, but that guy used to build some awesome stuff. One of the other builders that I'd like to see, and I'm drawing a blank right now, but he's the guy from South Korea. God, what's his name? I
don't know. I don't follow anybody from there.
Enzaka. Unfortunately, he doesn't. I don't think he doesn't speak any English, but that guy can build. It'd be fun to see what he does. So he's one of my favorite builders. And again, all the guys at Scale Builders Guild, you know, all the guys there, they just make amazing stuff. I wish I had the talent or the time to mess with that stuff and do it. I can't seem to get anywhere near trying to do something like that.
Yeah, it definitely sucks up some time real fast. So guys, if you out there, I mean, I know there's some people who have been on the forums for a long time and following stuff. If you know the 55 Chevy guy, you can feel free to shoot me a PM. Let me know. I'll search him out. maybe, possibly. We'll give it a shot, see what I can find. Um, I wasn't into the little stuff, so I never followed that. But all right, next. Where do you see scale crawling headed in the coming years?
In my opinion, I think we're going a little bit more towards the comp direction. I mean, we've seen a lot of people doing the trail stuff. They like to go out and trail run with a lot of people. And I know you and myself and a lot of the guys, we've been into comping for a while now. You know, we like to go out there and go against the points, that type of stuff.
Right.
But I think there's an opportunity for everybody who's involved, like from Sorka and to anybody else who wants to do the scaling comp type stuff. I think there's an opportunity to bring more people in, but we got to be careful that we don't get too crazy on the rules and the guidelines and start really turning people away. I think that that's probably the direction needs to go. I think that I'd like to see comp crawler style vehicles that still have to be shaft driven and get on some comp courses. I mean, I'm running stuff. It blows my mind. When I was at the Pro Line by the Fire event, we used to test the comp crawler out there, and now we're pulling lines with our scale trucks that we used to do in our comp crawlers when we were just testing at the beginning. Right. So I think that's probably a direction that you have guys that like to go out and run and trail run and hang out with their buddies, but they really want to start challenging themselves. They're getting better drivers and they want to start challenging what they can do. So I personally think that we're going back towards comping on a bigger scale, but I think that, again, we just got to be careful. You know, we don't want to alienate people. We don't want to make it difficult where you've got to have two of this or one of that or this and that and blah, blah, blah. You know, there's got to be a way that we can keep people involved, because the funnest part about scaling was you'd get out there and you'd run your rig that looks like something you dreamed of making, or a vehicle you can't personally afford to own, and you can make it in a scale version, and you can get out there and run it over a course and watch it. And that's what makes it fun. But I worry that we could be taking ourselves back down and comping ourselves out of a category. I think we got a good opportunity right now to bring people in and have fun with the competition side of it, while keeping it easy and fun for people to enjoy.
Right. And so I feel your concern 100%. I've had so many rules, conversations, discussions, all kinds of stuff. I've struggled with my own local series for a number of years to either get people in or whatever. And so I see what you're saying, where when you put too many rules in, it can cause people to shy away. Mm-hmm. But I also see groups of people like the GCM guys doing the adventure series stuff. Yeah. And just stuff like that. And so I think that it's not really dividing, I don't want to say, where like you got the people who want to go trail run and do adventure series stuff, and you got the comp guy. But I think that like right now specifically, it's in a good mix where it kind of like you can do both. Like you can build you can do both. And that's pretty fun.
And that's what's kind of cool about like the Pro Line by the Fire event, and when I went out to that one, you know, they still ran a comp series for the comp guys. It was a small category, but they had a lot of the trail stuff running, and then you had all the scale town and all that stuff. That's what makes it fun. And you know, and I've been fortunate enough that I went to Axial Fest 2 years in a row prior to coming back to Horizon, and just seeing, you know, I love being able to tell people, come out to a scale event. You won't believe how much fun it is. You're hiking, you're having fun with your truck. There's no pressure. Yeah, you're going to challenge yourself wanting to make a line. And that's what I love about our segment in crawling, is that it's really just family oriented. And I want to see that happen. I want to see that stay. That's the biggest thing for me, because I just love the segment, and I just don't want it to get blown out to where it just gets too complicated for someone. They should be able to come out, run whatever they got, and run it. You know, and have a good time. So.
All right. I hear you, and I feel the same way, truthfully. So, especially with a 3-year-old son who's coming up into all of this stuff, keeping it family oriented, making it so it's fun. That's where I'm at right now. So I kind of have my last question for you, and I'm going to let you answer it. But if anybody else has any questions they want to throw out there, I'll jot them down. I'll see if I can get to them. If not, we'll go from there. Before I give you my last question, someone said Ascender 2.0 question mark earlier,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah, obviously I can't say anything is what's coming. All I can tell you is that we got something coming down the pipe. Is it a 2.0? I don't know, but don't. It's just one of those things that there's always things that we're working on. I mean,
Right.
it's lucky now. I'm a product developer now with Axial as well. I've joined the team with them as well, so it's kind of fun because I get to do my Viterra stuff, and now I get to do Axial stuff as well, and getting prepared for Axial Fest right now. I'm building a bomber. I have my SCX-10 too. I got the new Chevy body. I'm literally thrashing right now to get those ready because I have 5 Ascenders built, but I don't have any SCX-10, so I got an RTR that I put together so I can at least have something. And I got this bomber kit so I can kind of learn about the products and stuff like that. So
Right.
it's going to be fun. So it's funny. The hardcore Viterra guys, I'm still Viterra. I still love my Viterra. I still love going out there and running it. I still kind of feel like an underdog. But you know what? Axial is another brand that we now own, and I'm going to support it. And I'm fortunate enough that I get to work with the brand as well. And the guys are really cool. They do some innovative stuff. And so I'm not giving up on my Viterra. It's another brand that I get to work with. I work on ECX stuff, which is our entry-level brands. I work on Losi. I did the Baja Ray. That was my one of my favorite vehicles as well that I came up with. So I get to do, I get to kind of dabble in all that. So now I get kind of both. I have Viterra and I have Axial, and it's kind of fun to do that. So not everybody think that I'm giving up. I'm not giving up, guys. It's not a thing of Viterra's going away. I work with 2 brands now, and I'm really happy that we have both of them and can support both of them.
Right. Makes sense. That'd be an interesting position to be in, where you were the competitors. You're like going against your competitor now. Your enemy is now your friend. So
yeah, I'll admit I felt a little dirty the first time I drove that SCX-10 too. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I'm driving this thing. But you know what? I love the guys over there, and it's fun to kind of drive both. And it's what's fun too is that they have their critiques and their opinions on what we've done, and I have my critiques and my opinions on what they've done. So I think it's only going to make us even better because we get to share our experiences. So now when I look at stuff that they were doing, like, what were they thinking? Well, I can actually ask that question. I get a real answer, just like they can ask me as well. And I think that you're going to see, not necessarily that Viterra is going to influence Axial or vice versa, but that both will be able to take advantage of the knowledge that we've had developing these vehicles. And I think it can only be better for both brands. So
yeah, I mean that makes total sense when you put as many great minds together as you can who are doing all the same style stuff. It only gets better. More guests, more check, more people to back you up. So
yeah, for sure.
All right. What should we expect to see next from you and the Horizon crew?
Well, like I said, I can't really say too much about what we got coming down the pipe. We do have a lot of products that we're working on. We have lots of projects. You know what? I'm going to answer Jason. I see Jason asking that question. He's asked it a couple times.
So,
what do I think about the
people
Traxxas?
on YouTube who can't read comments? But yes, Jason just asked a great question, which talks about what do we think about what does Rich think about the Traxxas's entry into the crawler market? And then it has a whole list of stuff, but I can only see like 2 lines. So
yeah, that's all I can see too.
But let's talk about Traxxas and their entry into the crawler world here.
So I think that I think it's actually good for the category because obviously Traxxas has done a really good job of marketing themselves, getting the brand out there. Pretty big. They've made themselves now where Traxxas is RC is what they'll say. People ask like, is it a Traxxas? Do you have a Traxxas? I don't get it a lot of times because I see, and I hate to take a shot at them, but I see some of their other vehicles that break, and it seems to be okay that they break and people have to fix them. When it comes to the TRX4, I think they did a pretty nice job. They did put some pretty cool features in there. I think they kind of overdid it on some features. And potentially added some complications for people. That's where, like I said, I worry about it's really cool that they have the opening diffs. that you can do it. But you're actually adding the complexity of these servos, and you bring someone new into it. They go buy this thing thinking it's the best thing that you have to have, and then they
Right.
get frustrated because it breaks, or whatever issues it might have. That being said, they did an innovative design. They came up with their portals. They've done a pretty good job at that thing, and I think that they're obviously a serious threat when they're that big of a company. The cool thing is I still think because of Axial and Viterra on a small part, we're really into it. I know that Traxxas has some guys that are into scale. They had to be to come up with a scale rig, but I don't think that's their forte. That's really what they're into. You see all these other companies that are starting to do them as well. Well, the guys at Axial live it. Those guys all are Jeepers. They're all crawling and comping. Randall is always at an event running a rig and that type of stuff. So I think that's where a lot of those guys really make a big difference on what's going to come out and what to focus on. I think a lot of the other companies, just kind of take a look and see what's popular and, hey, we need to do that. And like I said, Trax has done a good job. I see the HPI Venture as well. I honestly haven't taken a close look at that rig myself. I haven't seen too many out there. That's not a shot at them. It's just I personally haven't seen that many of them, so I really don't have much to say about that. RC four-wheel drive, I had fun with my trail finder. I liked running leaf springs. That was a fun rig to run. I liked that because it was a little more challenging to drive because it didn't have the articulation of a linked vehicle. And they do a good job of creating real scale looking products. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. The cool thing is I know what we got coming down the pipe for Axial and Viterra and stuff. And, we've got some good stuff that's going to be coming. So it's pretty exciting to see what we have.
Well, I like to hear that. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see what comes. But that was my final question. So I have to ask the one last piece of the puzzle is did I miss something? Is there something else that you need to put out there that I missed in my line of questioning?
No, hopefully everybody kind of liked our talk here. I'm sorry I can't give out too much details as far as what we got coming down the pipe. And I'm not trying to do it as promotion. I love this thing, it looks like Tom's going to be sending me a check. Sounds good. Yeah, I appreciate that, Tom.
That looks good.
You know what? Like I told you guys, I had a really good time working for RC Four-Wheel Drive. Tom was really good to me, the whole team there. So, I really like hanging out and talking to them. And we talk crap to each other now, too. So that's kind of fun as well. But hopefully everybody appreciated some of the background and stuff. I had a good time. Like I said, I've been very fortunate to get myself in a position to be able to do what I do for a hobby and for a living. Now, I'll admit it is a job. So, after work, am I out there running my scaler all the time? No, I don't drive RC cars as much as I used to, but I do keep that passion going. And, I get out there, Sharif is Reef's RC. He's actually a local and a lot of the guys out there, Javier and a couple other guys, I'm throwing names out there because I know they're going to want to know if I mention their name, but those guys, I actually get out and run it at my local area on the weekends once in a while. So it's kind of fun to still go do that, but I like to go run, or ride my bike. I like riding mountain bikes. I dabble a little bit of Hot Wheel collecting. I have fun with that. I like building real cars. I just bought a new Tacoma, so I'm kind of doing the overland thing. I got the tent, and I'm going to do a lift kit and get out there and do some off-roading. So that's kind of where I like to do after work. During work, it is RC, and I try to be careful not to burn myself out and do it too much because, I love what I get to do, and I love having fun with RC stuff. And also, I want to tell you guys, okay, everybody says, oh, you're so lucky you work for RC car company. All you do is drive RC cars all day. No, that's probably about 2% of my job is getting to actually drive the cars. We do get to do the testing. We do it all ourselves. But that's the fun part. The rest of it is paperwork, and I got to answer people's questions, and I got to prove that we're going to make money, and I got to prove that it's what people want, and I got to put price lists together and check exploded views and check instruction manuals and check box arts. Did I put the right UPC code on it? Did they meet the quality control? Did they check the tolerances? There's tons of other stuff that it takes the majority of the job. But yeah, there are times
Right.
it's pretty cool when I'm sitting out there on a rock driving my Ascender or some new vehicle and I'm the only one that's got it. It's kind of cool to think that that's what I'm getting paid to do. So I love it, but don't think that that's all I get to do is just play with the toy cars.
Right. Okay, man. Well, I'm out of questions. I think it was a great interview. I genuinely appreciate the open, honest answers. I love that we were able to talk a little bit about the projects that you've done. I love that you were willing to discuss a little bit about the axial horizon transition,
Right.
Vitera, all that stuff. I genuinely appreciate that because I think that there's a lot of people out there that want to know a little bit about that. Like we
Yeah.
understand that we can't have every detail, obviously, but we just want
Right.
to know that everything's okay. Because I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie,
No.
totally
Yeah.
a
Everything would be.
fanboy. Like, I can't help it. So
No, I think we're gonna be fine. Like I said, Horizon's a good company, and we're 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 not gonna screw it up. We're actually really want to make sure everything is right. And the other thing too is maybe for fun we can do a follow up in a few months, and maybe you have some questions from people and you want to do a follow up. I'm happy to answer. I enjoy doing this stuff. Like I said, I've got a
yeah,
passion for this, and I love answering these things. And again, when I see the trolls out there and people speculating on why, I wish I could just go, you guys don't know what you're talking about. My God. But this gives me an opportunity, a platform to kind of answer some of these things. So if you ever want to do it again, let me know. I'm down. That's for sure.
all right, man. And I think that I will absolutely be hitting that back up. Uh, at some point, I'm gonna exhaust my people out there who are willing to come on the show. I'm gonna have to hit up the people who've been on, and I can't wait to retalk to several people. You're not the only one, but you're definitely on my list because
Cool.
I just love the unique position that you're in. So I can't
Cool.
wait.
Appreciate it.
So.
Right on.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go and I'm going to close out the show and we're going to go from there. So I'll talk to you later, Rich.
Sounds good. Right on. Thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate it.
All right. See you.
See you.
Yep. Bye. Whoops. All right. There we go. So continuing out without my guest, that was Rich Trujillo. I believe I got it right again. Fingers crossed. But anyway, that was a great interview. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're watching on Facebook, by all means, like it, share it, whatever. I think there was some valuable pieces in there of the fact that I don't know. After talking to Rich, I feel pretty good about Axial being around and Vitera being around. So hopefully, fingers crossed that they both live in a joint world and things go from there. Additionally, if you haven't already, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. Over on YouTube, if you're watching right now, post up some comments. Hit a like button, subscribe if you will. I genuinely appreciate that. I'm trying to build my YouTube channel up a little bit. There's some stuff coming out here and there, and I have some big plans that haven't quite come through yet for YouTube, and we'll see what happens. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about what's going on. So next week I'm going to KOG. I'm going to try and do some filming out at KOG and put together a little edit. Hopefully it is good enough for all of you guys out there. So I am on a break next week. Thursday I'll be getting ready to leave to go to KOG, and when I leave, I don't want this as part of that because I end up staying up late, especially now that I'm going to go back through and answer all your comments and questions and so on and so forth. Additionally, the following week, on the 26th, I believe that's the following week, I have Desmond Mooney. I cannot wait to talk to Des. I've met him in person a couple times, but never a long conversation, never a bunch of questions. So I can't wait to hear what he has to say. And then after that, I do have a couple more people lined up. However, like always, I'm asking for people out there who would like to hear from who they'd like to hear from actually. And so if you've got someone on your list that you think would be a great interview, send me a message. I apologize for the cough. Send me a message and go from there. I do have to adjust a comment. Unfortunately, Ryan, over by I know because I've been to KOG the last 2 years, live feed stuff is probably not happening at KOG. Todd's house is in the middle of the woods, and his internet is slightly less than stellar. So I will do everything in my power to try and get a live feed out there, but I don't know that it's going to happen. We'll go from there. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, it's all on you guys. If you're not here, it's just me talking to a camera, and that's boring, and no one wants to see that. So I will talk to you all later. See you guys in 2 weeks with Desmond. Peace.